Do you think that's the only thing in your life that changes? No, because that limiting belief is not just driving your business, it's affecting your relationship with your spouse, your kids, if your kids have behavioral problems, if you are overweight, if you don't work out, if you have autoimmune or health is it is all affecting your entire life. So when you take that one domino down, all the other dominoes fall down.
This is By Joy Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Today's guest is a successful entrepreneur who built a real estate investment company that has flipped over 4,500 houses. And with that company now running independently of him, he's dedicating his life to his true passion, which is helping others break free from their past, overcome limiting beliefs, and create the life and relationships they desire and deserve. Through mastering self-love and reprogramming the mind, he has transformed his own life and is here today to empower you to do the same, to unlock your potential and live a life of true fulfillment. So guys, help me welcoming the happiness coach, Brett Chandler.
Thank you, Joy.
I'm so excited to have you here today because you are the happiness coach and we are the Find Joy with Joy show. So we are the perfect fit for one another. Now, although the first question that I'm going to ask is it's not a happy question. So how did you realize that your unresolved childhood trauma was impacting your life, your relationship, and your business decisions?
Yeah, there's a saying that someone said years ago, if you want to escape from prison, you have to know you're in prison, right? Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in prison. Well, Joy, I didn't know for 47 years that I'd put myself in an invisible prison. I was always for like 20 years prior to my transformation, I was always looking to be a better father, husband, brother, whatever. But there was something missing. And I didn't think things were that bad. I just wanted them to get better. But in the process of helping my son trying to get help for anxiety, I was on a coach call with a performance coach, and she said to me within like 10 minutes, you blink like crazy when you talk about your childhood. You may have some unresolved childhood issues that are actually contributing to your son's anxiety. And I'm like, me? No way. I'm a single dad. I do everything for my son. There's no chance. But okay, she's like, do you want to come out and work with my husband and I for a weekend? And I was like, well, I've tried everything. So sure, I'll try it. And I went out there for a weekend. And in a 3-hour session, laying in a bed in an Airbnb bedroom outside of Park City, Utah, my life forever changed. And I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, like the use of weed and alcohol, 2 marriages that failed, $9 million worth of business mistakes in 12 years, kids with behavioral problems and anxiety. Like, oh my gosh, my life, that was the invisible prison that I didn't even know I was in because I just kind of like excused it away. You know, who doesn't smoke some weed or drink or has kids with anxiety or loses money or has failed marriages? It's their fault. It's the ex-wife's fault. But yeah, now that I've made this transition, oh my gosh, like life has never been better. I mean, every area of my life, I'm in a phenomenal relationship. I'm active. I was in the gym yesterday for 6 hours playing pickleball, yoga, lifting. My business has never been in a better position. My net worth has never been in a better position. My relationship with my kids has never been better. Like everything has changed from one simple thing, figuring out the hidden limiting beliefs that were holding me back that I had no idea were even present.
I love this so much. And I'm so glad. I believe everything is divine timing because this afternoon I was just talking to a friend, texting, and we were talking about unconscious belief. You know, he's an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. We're just talking about how frustrated we are, so I told him, and he was telling me exactly like this is exactly what he said to me. Maybe he's listening to this podcast at the moment, but I'm sure he doesn't mind that I said this because I don't mention names. He said, I realize I don't know why I'm making success so hard for me. Like I'm choosing the hardest way to become successful. And I was like, we have some unconscious belief that we need to overcome, right? Because unconsciously, yes, we want success, right? We all want success and money and love and relationship. But deep down, something is holding us back. And you said that exactly, like we need to find out. So how do we find out?
Yeah, well, let me tell you the cause of it, and let me tell you why it's not your fault. So let's take your friend that's saying, "Why am I making business so hard?" He or she is not the only one, right? When let's just say it's 6 years old, they come home with a report card or they come home with an award and they show their mom, and the mom has her childhood trauma issues. And so she feels outshined. So she says something to the boy like, uh, well, you think you're smart, but you're really not. The boy says, okay, this is really stressful. I'm upsetting my mom. My mom's a leader of a tribe. We've been around for 6 million years. In 5 point whatever million years of those, we've lived in tribes. If I upset the tribe leader, I'm gonna get kicked out and I'm gonna die. So this is a survival thing. So the little boy forms a memory at 5 years old that says, if I am successful, I will get my love taken, I will get kicked out of the tribe, and I will die. So when he's making terrible business mistakes at 30, 40, 50 years old, his subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between yesterday and 40 years ago because it shouldn't. It's trying to keep him alive. So now he's making all these mistakes thinking, okay, I don't want to be unsuccessful, but that's my conscious mind. My unconscious mind is driving all of my behavior. So if you want to know, this right here is the secret to life. Every negative behavior that you have, and we just happen to be talking about business failure or lack of business success. Joy, you can throw in alcoholism, drug addiction, porn addiction, depression, anxiety, shutting down when your spouse comes to you. Every single negative thing in your life that you are having trouble overcoming is your brain's solution to something that it thinks is worse. And I just went over that with the example. So let's use that as an example. My business sucks. It's in chaos. I can't get to the next level. I don't like that. It's negative. But my mind's saying, no, 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 no. We got to keep you here because if you're successful, you're going to get thrown out of the tribe and you're going to die.
Mm.
So what do you do? Now going back full circle to your question, is it's so freaking simple. You show your brain that this underlying thing is nothing more than an untruth. And you either show it through imagination because your mind doesn't know the difference, or you would have a conversation with this guy. And if that was truly his issue, you'd be like, well, John, Sally, when in your life did you have success and someone didn't pull their love away from you? And then you come up with a couple. Now you're showing your brain, well, I thought this was true, but yet I've experienced success and my wife didn't leave me. A mismatch detector goes off. Bing, 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 bing. And what happens, Joy, is you are literally rewriting the neural pathway of that underlying untruth. What happens to the negative behavior? Whether it's alcoholism, eating too much, shutting down with your spouse, it's gone because it's got nothing to fuel it. We've reprogrammed the mind. You don't need drugs. You don't need 30 years of therapy like I went through or 50 different marriage counseling sessions. That's all you need to do.
Okay, so many questions. How fast can we reprogram our mind?
Minutes. Literally minutes. I've had sessions with people in an hour where they've walked away and their life has changed. I'm working with a gentleman right now who I am going to be investing in his company because this guy has always been so smart and articulate. And I never could get like, why do you make so little money? And we figured it out. It was around this fear of failure in his parents. And now I'm going to invest in this business. Who knows? It's a starting business, but who knows? It could be worth it could be worth $50 million one day. Why? Because of an hour conversation I had with him sitting on my deck 6 months ago. So it can happen extremely fast. You get the mind in what's called a labile state. So let's say that you came to me with anxiety. I'd say, Joy, let's go to a time yesterday where you were, or a week ago, where you were really anxious. Can you feel that? And you're like, yeah, I can feel it. Your neurons become labile, which means changeable, moldable, bendable. Then we start asking and we figure out what's this underlying untruth. And then I say, Joy, let's find some times in your life where the opposite was shown. And then again, ding, 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 the mismatch detector goes off. Literally, right then and there, your brain, your neural pathways are being rewritten through neuroplasticity. And you're like, well, why don't I hear about this more? They only figured out this in like 2004. Science figured out. So you're probably like, well, I'm sure they're teaching it in psychology classes and in medical school. Nope. Guess again. No, they're teaching good old Western medicine. Let's diagnose the patient, let's label them, and let's give them a drug.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. So let's go back to your story because I want listeners who are listening to this, they realize, okay, because I have so many episodes and we talk about NLP, subconscious mind. We talk about it, over and over and over again because that's what they want to learn. But still, like, okay, take me for example. Like, I have the awareness of my own limiting beliefs. I know exactly what is blocking me, my success, my manifestation, energy, and power. Yet, yes, I have the awareness, but I'm still not able to break through. And why is that?
Because there is a process called memory reconsolidation. It's not a process. It is something that we've lived with for 6 million years. It's our ability to relearn these emotional learnings that we thought were stuck in our brain forever and change them. So you have not gone through a process where you feel the emotion that you're trying to change. You make it labile, changeable, as I said, and then you stack on 3 different instances where you run through the programming in your mind and you're telling yourself a different story. Because I know I'd bet my kid's life on it that if I worked with you, we'd figure out that this emotional learning came from a time in your childhood between ages 0 and probably 7 to 10, where your needs weren't met or there was something stressful, and your mind created a story to get you through that. It was exactly what your brain should have been doing. It was helping you survive. It helped you survive as a 6-year-old, but it destroys relationships and business and health as a 46-year-old or 36-year-old or 80-year-old.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that simple. You just haven't gone through the proper process.
Right. So is this a process that you are taking your clients through right now when they work with
Absolutely.
you? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do it through hypnosis too. We have a hypnosis component, which makes things even better because it's the best way, I think, in the world to access your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind creates 95% of your behavior. We're going to talk about the business mistakes in a couple of minutes. It
Mm.
wasn't my conscious mind that created those. When I was 48 years old, I went and bought a 42-foot boat. I'd never owned a boat in my life. And I decided I was going to take it to the Bahamas. The day before I left for the cruise, I'm the captain of the boat. I don't have a captain's license. My friend is teaching me how to read a sea chart. I didn't even know how to read a chart. Did my conscious brain wake up and say, Brad, you're no good. You're not good enough. You got to do something spectacular to be loved and be worthy. Go buy a boat. No, it just, my subconscious drove me to do that. And it worked out, but I could have killed myself. Like there was one trip where I went on this 50-mile leg and it went into the ocean and I was without an engine. I'm a new boater on a 42-foot boat with my buddy who's inexperienced. And we're going through, and I'm like bracing myself. The waves are so big, it's rocking. If the other engine had failed, and it was an older boat, and it wasn't well kept, I redid everything. But who knows what would have happened? All driven by my subconscious mind. So if you've gone to the Tony Robbins and the Zig Ziglars, and you get all pumped up, and you come home, and you're like, 3 days later, you look around, you're like, whoa, nothing has changed. It's not your fault. It's because your subconscious mind hasn't changed. And until we can change that, nothing is going to change. Think about the billions of dollars that are spent on dieting. How many people, Joy, do you know that have lost a bunch of weight only to put it back on? Why? Because they never figured out what caused them to put the weight on in the first place. No one's born with limiting beliefs, addictions, food problems, anxiety, depression. No one is born with those things. And if someone tells you that stuff runs in families, it's complete BS. That doesn't run in families. What runs in families is the trauma associated from the depression, the anxiety, the alcoholism. So no one was born with it. So therefore, it was learned to get you through something bad in your life. And now you know with this awareness that you can change it.
Okay, that is incredible. And Okay, I want to go back to your story again. So how did you, because I know you were in the real estate, investment business, right? Industry, and you lost $9 million. We can talk about that. And you, because of the son has the issue, anxiety, and then you realize that it's your fault, right? So how did you, from there, how did you become the person you are today? Like helping others to break free their limiting beliefs.
So I came home from that weekend in Park City and I felt so different about myself and the way that I saw the world. And I started to process it. And I started to look at my family and my employees and my networks, my social networks, the yacht club, the marina, the country club, just everywhere. And I just started to witness and look and be aware. I was like, oh my gosh, she's got a drinking problem because of this. This person's overweight, he has anxiety. And I'm like, my mind is like, oh my gosh, it's the same exact reason how I lost $9 million and smoked weed every day for a couple of years and had two failed marriages and kids with anxiety. I'm like, it's the same exact reason. Man, could I help them? So I just started informally talking to people, and they're like, all these people were telling me stuff. They're like, Brad, I've never shared this with anyone in my life. Like, they're like, you're really good. This is almost more helpful than my therapist. And so I'm starting to think, well, maybe I've got a gift for this. Maybe this is why God put me here. And then I started studying under some of the best people in the world. The guy that took me through the program, I flew back out. I watched him go do another 2 sessions with like 8 people. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing how he's helping people. And then I just kept studying. And then it became more and more formalized. And we created a process with all of these best of, breed business, not business, these different techniques. And we just kind of got the best of all the best. And that's what we do now. We help business owners and executives and entrepreneurs radically change their lives by just doing this work. It's only 5 weeks. It's not 30 years like I went through.
And before our interview, you mentioned that yes, you're working with entrepreneurs, business owners, or and what they need is not another marketing funnel strategy, whatever, right? But what they need is deep inner work. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, if you're struggling in your business, I'm pretty sure you don't need another marketing campaign. You don't need a business coach. You don't need another mastermind or a business summit. What you need is you need to figure out what's holding you back. And it's not intelligence. If you look at the intelligence level or difference between like a Walmart middle manager and a Fortune 500 CEO, the intelligence IQ it's crazy how close it is, right? So I look around now. I'm in a couple masterminds. I've worked with over 100 entrepreneurs, and it's the same story over and over again. I went to a mastermind last week in San Diego, and one of my clients actually was a speaker. And what was he speaking on? He was speaking on, if you want to increase your leadership capabilities and become a better leader, you have to get rid of your limiting beliefs. Because he had this limiting belief that if I talk to my employees and tell them what I really think, they're going to leave me, because he had an incident as a child where something similar happened with his mom. So that's what you need to do as a business owner before you go try all these other things. And you've probably tried them all. And you're like, why do I try all this stuff and nothing works? It's the same reason that marriage counseling usually doesn't work. If you've got these underlying limiting beliefs, I heard this so many times, Joy. Hold her hand more. Repeat back what she says. Take her on more date nights. Be affectionate. If your limiting belief is you're no good and you suck, it is impossible to do those things. So, as a business owner, it's impossible to go to a business event, a Tony Robbins business mastery class, and come back and implement. Because if your subconscious mind is telling you different than your conscious mind, your subconscious mind is always going to win until you figure out what is the reason it's driving it. So that's simply it, is you got to dig into your past and figure out what are limiting beliefs. And here's the beautiful thing. When you figure out, you come to me with a business problem, or you come to me with anxiety, or you come to me with addiction, and we solve that one thing, Do you think that's the only thing in your life that changes? No, because that limiting belief is not just driving your business, it's affecting your relationship with your spouse, your kids. If your kids have behavioral problems, if you are overweight, if you don't work out, if you have autoimmune or health is, it is all affecting your entire life. So when you take that one domino down, all the other dominoes fall down. I had a client recently went on vacation. He goes, Brad, and I worked with him. It's been a year. And he goes, I stayed in this high rise. And he goes, I walked out on the deck. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared. I was like looking over the edge. I was like, he said, Brad, is there any way that the work you did with me could have solved my fear of heights? I said, absolutely. Because your underlying fear or issue was fear. It was fear. And fear really is what's driving most of us. It's that fear of not being loved or fear of getting kicked out of the tribe. So if you can kick the fear, all the fear, the public speaking, the social anxiety, everything is torn down.
Hmm. So does it mean that we only have one single and deepest core wound, limiting belief or fear? Like we only have one. Like because everything comes out to this one fear.
I think a majority of stuff comes down to fear of not being enough and fear of not being loved, fear of getting kicked out of the tribe and dying. Now, do could someone have anxiety because their father never showed up to anything and they felt not loved? And could that person this is a true story, have a deadly fear of rabbits, have a phobia over rabbits? Because this was someone on my podcast recently said this. They had a client that had a deadly fear of rabbits. And when they did the work at 10 years old, the father left the family, packed up his car. And as he's packing up the car and the little girl standing at like 6 years old, watching her dad pack up, crying, knowing he was leaving, guess what she saw in the yard?
Rabbit.
She saw a rabbit. So now anytime she sees a rabbit, she has this terrible fear because when her dad is leaving, again, the 6 million year old subconscious brain is likely saying, Dad's leaving, where I'm going to die. At 6 years old, you don't have a logical brain to say, oh, it's okay. Dad's got his issues of his own. He's leaving, but mom's here. No, the tribe is being split up. Therefore, we're in danger. We might die. So back to your question is, it almost always goes down to some fear of not being enough. But yes, someone can have 2, 3, 10 different emotional learnings that came as a kid that are affecting different areas of your life. But again, if you topple one, you're going to see all the other ones they either topple on their own, or then you're like, oh, this is easy. I can fix this if I just fix this.
Yeah, I mean the reason why I asked the question, and it's the first time that I asked a guest about that question is because I've attended Tony Robbins and a lot of others gurus. And the one of the exercises that will ask us to do is write down all our limiting beliefs in all the areas of our life, relationship, money, business, health, right? And then I just become overwhelmed with all these limiting beliefs that I have in all these areas of my life. That is the reason why I ask, is it all just like it all comes out to just one single belief? Because once I take this belief or limiting belief, everything else is being taken care of. That's the reason why I asked the question.
So, Joy, I think it's really important, if I didn't say this,
Okay.
to say this, or if I said it, to reiterate it. I've had multiple clients that came to me with like, I don't know why I have so much anxiety. I don't know why I have so much depression. I don't remember anything in my childhood. I don't have any limiting beliefs. And when we got them into hypnosis, it was like, oh my gosh, at 2 years old, my mom was trying to kill herself. Like they completely forgot about it. And that's their brain protecting them. So if you haven't accessed your subconscious mind, you may think you know your limiting beliefs, and you may, but there's a huge subset of the population, including myself, that had no idea. My life partner, Yvonne, and business partner, she had no idea. She was like, when I met her, I was like, you have to have something that happened in your childhood. And she's like, no, my childhood was great. She goes, why do you think that? I go, because I see who you partnered with. Her ex-husband has a ton of issues. And I'm like, you don't partner with someone who has a ton of issues if you don't have issues yourself. It's just the way it works. So what we do, Joy, is I have a self-love quiz to use an example. And the scores you're going to either get are extreme self-love, mild self-love, or lack of self-love. And if you want to take the quiz, it's 3 minutes. Do yourself a favor and your family and your business at unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. So you get a score, right? If if you lack self-love, there is no way in the world you're going to go marry or match with someone who has extreme self-love, because here's how it plays out. Let's say that you have extreme self-love. You and I go on a first date. I have lack of self-love. And I'm like, God, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I parked the car that way. And um, gosh, I'm really fat, Joy. And the world just freaking sucks. Like it's just the world's out to get me. You'd be like, get me out of this date, right? Because you've done the work and you're at a way higher vibrational level than I am. So what we do, we match with someone who has lack of self-love. And then what do? We have kids. And do you think the kids have extreme self-love? No chance, because we just pass down. Most of us are involved in this 1,000-year multi-generational curse where we do the best we can for our kids, but we pass it down. So if your kid has behavioral problems and you want to know where they're coming from, just grab your spouse and walk into the bathroom and look in the mirror. You're the cause of it. Notice I didn't say it's your fault. What is the greatest gift that you can ever give your children? It's to break the multi-generational curse. How do you do that? You teach your child how to love themselves unconditionally. How in the world can you teach a child how to love themselves unconditionally if you go take my self-love quiz and you score lack of self-love or mild self-love? You can't. So when people come to me and they're like, oh, can you work with my kid? I'm like, yeah, I can work with your kid, but first I need to work with you, because I can take your kid, take him out, wave a magic wand, fix him or her, put him back in a situation. And within days, that child's going to be right back to the way they were because of you. And again, it's not your fault. You're doing the best that you can.
Like, why is it not our fault if we are behaving a certain way, if we are, like, why is it not our fault?
Let's use me as an example.
Okay.
I've been a single dad since 2011. I got my kids, both kids, to the bus stop every time, every morning. I came home. I cooked them dinner. I was rarely not with them. I toured around the country playing in golf or taking my son to golf tournaments. A couple of years ago, my daughter played volleyball. I was the only parent that was there at every volleyball game the entire year. But yet my kids had anxiety. Why is that? Because my unconscious was, I'm not good enough, so my kids better be good enough. So I'm going to push them. I'm going to put too much pressure on them. So my son, who was like a world-class golfer, told me during that weekend in Park City, going through this incredible transformation, that he believed I only loved him if he played golf at a high level. Did I ever tell him that? Of course not. But my subconscious mind was thinking, likely, if my son can play major golf and be a professional, I'm going to be enough. So is that my fault? No, I had no idea I was doing it. So look, if you are spanking your kid, if you're berating your kid, if you're giving your kids drugs, then maybe it is your fault. But the underlying thing still isn't your fault. No one would do that who was whole and had extreme self-love. So it's not, I don't want people to mistake what I'm saying. You have a responsibility for your actions, but it's not your fault up until you hear a podcast like this. Now you know you have an awareness. If you go take that self-love quiz and you score lack of self-love and your kids have terrible grades, they're acting up in school, they have anxiety or depression, you now know why. Now, is it your fault if you continue and do nothing? Yeah, I'd say it is your fault and your responsibility. But now you have a route out, whether it's working with me or someone else. At least you know, oh my gosh, this is where it's coming from, and I can change it. I can be a better person.
I want to ask a question about subconscious mind. How do we access our subconscious mind? And the other question is, or it's just a, same question. How do we make the unconscious conscious? You get what I mean?
Yeah. So the best way to access it is through, in my opinion, is through meditation and hypnosis. Just getting in a deeply relaxed state where you're calm and you don't have all these thoughts flooding in. And then how do you make the unconscious conscious? You only can do it by figuring out, like in my case, oh my gosh, I'm laying in that bed and I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt not enough. But all along, that's just, that was my parents. That was my dad when he was hitting me, when he was making fun of me. That had nothing to do with me. That had to do with him. But I couldn't get there until I got into my subconscious mind. And then you bring it to the conscious. And now, anytime we have this really cool tool on our website called the Joy Regenerator. We didn't name it after you, but we might as well have. And it's anytime that you are in a fight or you get a negative emotion, it's how to get out of it. So this is great. Let me just walk you through this. When you're having a negative emotion, you're mad, you're frustrated, you're pissed off, whatever, it's depressed. You are not in the present moment. Trauma takes you out of the present moment. So what you do is you take a couple breaths and then you identify the emotion and then you give yourself compassion for the emotion. So I'm feeling sad. It's okay, Brad, you're feeling sad. Where did it come from? Well, that's the work that Yvonne and I do. We will show you where that negative emotion comes from because it's never about the actual situation. When you're fighting with your spouse, when you're pissed off in traffic, it never, when your business associate message pisses you off or your employee, it has nothing to do with what they did. It has to do with you going back to childhood and pulling in a meaning. So we help you find that out. In my case, I know it. So here's what I do. Anytime I'm in a sad, triggered state, which doesn't happen often, I promise you, I know where it came from. It goes back to my feeling not enough. So I ask myself, is the original thought, because a thought always creates an emotion, the emotion creates an action, and an action often reinforces the thought, right? So I ask myself, am I enough? Am I not enough? No, that's untrue. So then I go, well, why am I going to sit here being sad or mad based on a thought that's not even true? I'm not. So boom, I snap back into joy. Joy, that used to take me with my ex-wives sometimes 3 or 4 days. Now it takes me 3 or 4 seconds or 3 or 4 minutes, and boom, I'm back in. It's the same exact thing with every single human being listening to this. If you are pissed off, mad, upset, it's because you're bringing in that meaning from a time where your needs weren't met as a child. Your subconscious is bringing it in. And when you can figure out what that is, you don't have to be sad, pissed off, mad about anything. Because the night before I went through my transformation, the gentleman who took me through said, Brad, I am trying to get to a point in my life where no person or situation can negatively affect me. And I thought, Joy, this guy's full of it. Like, who the heck does he think he is? 3.5 years later, look, that's pure enlightenment, right? I'm not there. But if I was all the way over here, I am so much closer. Like, it is really, really hard to make me aggravated or pissed off. And if I do, I immediately catch myself and say, this has nothing to do with this person. This has all to do with me and the way that I'm thinking. And I just snap out of it. We can all do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds easy, right? And thanks for sharing the process and or the techniques. But yeah, it sounds easy, but we all know it's not easy. And when you're doing it yourself, right? And if not, everyone will be free, will be happy, will be joyful. So I suggest, we need a coach. We need to work with someone like you, an expert who knows what they are doing, just like you have gone through it, yourself and the transformation. So yeah, I'm just saying that to my listeners because although yes, listening to podcast is the first step, right? Getting a knowledge, right? Awareness. But the second step of transformation is really to get some help, like serious help. So I just want to mention that.
It's really, really hard when you think that what is causing you to be upset is the external thing.
Mm,
And when you can realize and have awareness that if you're getting upset, it's just the way that your mind is perceiving information and it has nothing to do. The lion is chasing the rabbit. The rabbit gets really scared. It was not the lion didn't cause that. It was a reaction from the rabbit, right? And what does it cause when you're scared? It puts blood to your legs and it increases cortisol. It shuts down your digestion, your creative thinking. When you get angry, if you got problems with your jaw at night, anger, you go to your jaw because that's the biting thing. That's to protect our 6 million-year-old brain. So just knowing that when you're in this pissed off, sad, emotional state, it has nothing to do with the world or your circumstance. It has everything to do with how you're perceiving it. So I just wanted to share that.
So again, you talk about not feeling good enough, and I do struggle with the same fear too, right? Like you said, Tony Robbins also says that like every single human being, ultimately our biggest fear is the fear of not being good enough and not being loved. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, that is a that at least there is a pattern that I see in the entrepreneur space. Like no matter how much we do, how much we achieve, how much success or stuff we have accumulated, we still feel like we are not good enough. Therefore, we need to achieve more. We need to set another goal, right? Make more money, have a bigger house, bigger car. So, what advice would you give to people who are struggling with I'm not good enough as entrepreneur and despite their achievements?
When people don't think they're enough, whether you believe in God or you believe in Buddha or whatever, whoever your creator is, who created us all, I can assure you that that creator didn't say, I'm going to make Brad and I'm going to make Joy, but I'm going to make Joy a little less good than Brad. I'm going to make her not enough. We were all made enough. If you're a believer in God, God says everyone was made in God's image. So how do you overcome this not enough that's literally affecting every area of your life? It's everything I've been talking about. You were not born with the thought that you weren't enough. Something happened in your childhood. Mom yelled at you. Mom was absent. The parents fought a lot about money. And as kids, we have to internalize it because think about my dad's making fun of me and hitting me, but he's also the person who keeps me alive. If I say, oh, that's my dad's fault, I'm absolutely screwed, right? I have no control. If I say, wow, he's hitting me and he's making fun of me because there's something wrong with me, I'm not enough, guess what? All I have to do is be better and be enough, and then dad will love me and stop hitting me. So our brains are doing exactly what they were meant to do at the time. It's just at 6 years old, it's great. It helps you. And it's unfortunate that you were in that circumstance in the first place, or that I was. But at 47, when you're buying a boat and almost killing yourself trying to take it to the Bahamas, it doesn't serve you. That's it. It's that simple.
I love that. Now, we talk about so many things. They are incredible information. But what is one thing, because I want them to, it's not just about listening passively, it's about really taking action and transforming their life, right? So what is one thing you want my listeners to do after this episode ends? What is one thing you want them to do?
So go take the quiz, because if you score extreme self-love, you're probably, I mean, I've helped a couple people that had extreme self-love and still got them even further. But if you score extreme self-love, you're probably in a good position. If you score mild self-love or lack of self-love, I promise you that every area of your life is negatively affected to some degree. And I don't want you to get the results and be like, oh, woe is me. Just the opposite. Wherever your life is, know that if you score on those two bottom rungs, your life can be so much better. So number one, take the quiz. If you enjoy this type of topic, I have a podcast called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to listen to it. It's got amazing information, everything I'm talking about. What I want you to do is, whether you work with me or not, it's not going to matter in my life at all. But I want you to know, no matter if you're struggling in business, if your marriage sucks, if your relationship sucks, if your kids have behavioral problems, if you're overweight, anxious, depressed, and you're like, well, I've tried it all. You have probably not tried it all, because you probably haven't done the things that I have just talked about and coached you. So am I the only one in the world that can do this? No, of course not. There's nothing special about Brad. I've just learned from some of the greatest people. So what I want you to do is I want you to know, to live in the truth that number one, you're enough. Number two, that you were put on this earth for a massive mission. The sperm and the egg meeting up at the right time, like, you are a miracle. And if you're suffering and you're like, well, I deserve to suffer because I'm not enough, it's a bunch of bull. And you don't need to suffer. And there's a pathway out that literally in weeks, hours, your life can change profoundly, and your relationships and your health and your business, everything can get better. So that's what I want you to do. Take the quiz and then take the first step in the journey to get to a point in your life where everything is thriving, and you're in deeply connected relationships, and your business is going well, and you're healthy, and you're working out, and you're in a deeply connected relationship, and you wake up every morning with a sense of purpose, and you get to do exactly what you love to do. There's always something that everyone loves to do. Go find that thing.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am going to take the quiz now, and I'll let you know. We always end with our final 5 rapid fire questions. So every question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Love it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
Importance of self-love.
Love that. Second question, if you could relive one day of your life, which day would it be?
Wow. I think I would relive the day where I went through the transformation knowing what I know now.
Would it make a difference?
Probably not.
Okay, yeah, love that. The next question, if you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Kite surfing. I took it up a couple years ago and it is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I would love to master it.
The next question is, if you could instantly solve one world problem, what would it be?
Oh, everything that I've just talked about. It's lack of self-love in an individual. If we could do that, Joy, our prisons would shut down, our hospitals would close, pharmaceutical companies would go out of business, the divorce rate would go from 50 to 70% to like 2%.
Hmm.
Wars would end.
Yeah, I know we haven't talked about self-love, but why is it so important to cultivate self-love? Like it solves
It's
all the
the,
problem.
it's the basis of everything. It's why are there wars going on and hospitals full and prisons full? It's because people are hurt because they lack self-love because something that happened to them in their childhood. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah,
And you cannot give what you don't have. So we we are all light and love. And when we can shine our light and love, really amazing things happen. We can get out of fear. So much time in this world is spent in fear and judgment. If we can get out of fear and judgment and into love, sorry, our lives will change in radical ways.
yeah. Hurt people, right?
Hurt people, right?
The last question is, you're gonna love this. What brings you the greatest joy?
I got a text a couple months ago from a gentleman that I took on who came to me about 18 months ago and his marriage was about to end, a fellow entrepreneur. And his text said, "Thank you for changing my life and my family's life." That brings me the most joy is removing the fear and limiting beliefs from people so that they live this amazing life full of deeply connected relationships and thriving businesses.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's why we do what we do, right? And thank you so much for
Yes.
all the work that you are doing. It's just beautiful. And all the lives that you have saved, you have changed. It's just beautiful, so and impactful. So thank you so much again for coming and sharing so abundantly with me and my listeners today. Now tell my people where they can find you, and if they want to work with you, what is the first step?
Yeah, unlocklimitlessyou.com is our website. And if you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/Brad, it has all my social media. It has a self-love quiz. On the website, you can find the Joy Regenerator. And there's a free session. Just click the button, schedule a call, and schedule a call with myself or Yvonne. And we'd love to talk with you. Whether we work with you or not, we'll try to help you out best we can.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much again. Now, guys, I know you love and learn a lot from today's episode. Go follow Brad, go to his website. I'll put all his links in the show note below. And, book a call with him. It's free. And just, experience this yourself. Just talk to him, right? Or anything. I'm sure he's open to he's happy to talk to you as well. So, and share this episode with your friends and family and help them overcome their limiting beliefs today. Or, just remind them that they are enough. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag Find Joy Joanne _podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next
episode.